Welcome in to the 2025 First In Last Out Sports NHL Draft Guide. Today, we will be reviewing our group big board, specifically the top 15 centers that we have on our board. The way we came about this big board was we had 5 members of First In Last Out Sports each scout a few prospects and then assign them a grade using the grading scale that you see on your screen here. We then used that assigned grade to form a board consisting of 55 prospects. Today, though, we will be focused on revealing our top 15 centers, but throughout the draft week here, we will also be revealing a top 10 wingers video and a top 10 defensemen video. So, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell to get alerted to those as well. And please feel free to leave a comment with your opinion on our grades. So, coming in at number 41 overall on the big board and number 15 center in the class is Erik Nilsson. With a grade of 6.16, the center is 5'11", 156 pounds. You heard that right. Very, very undersized, and needs to put on significant weight. Which 156 pounds, yeah. It's but he's going to Michigan State next year. High motor player, has a nice two-way ability in his game. Very good skater. He's a penalty killer, displaying that two-way ability. He does well carrying the puck through the neutral zone, and he flashes a little bit of offensive skill at times here, but he plays a more passive role in the O zone. If he can get stronger and up the offensive skills, he'll be a long-time NHLer. So this is a guy, I mean, he's small. He's going to have to grow. He's going to have to fill out a frame. 5'11", it's not short. He's got to put on the weight. So, get him in the weight room. He's got the skill and mental side of it. I mean, you're going to need to see some more development, but that side's there to see a real NHLer here. And for number 15 at the center position in this class, I think this is a good segue into saying that maybe this class is a little underrated by consensus, because if the 15th center is getting looks like, hey, this could be a real NHL, he's got to put on some weight. It's a good start here. Good start before we get into the number 14 center here. But yeah, not Jack Nesbitt. Small spoiler alert, but Erik Nilsson coming in at number 15 at center, 41 overall on the big board with a grade of 6.16. Next center will be Jack Nesbitt, coming in at 36 overall on our big board with a grade of 6.22. Center, 6'4", 186 pounds out of the OHL. He is a big two-way center, displaying some high IQ, and he uses his big frame well. He has physicality in his game. He possesses a strong shot and not a great skater, which for a bigger guy, sometimes that tends to be the case, but he's not a great skater. Not a good puck handler. He's a good forechecker, though. He displays that high motor that we look for and like to see in some prospects. Gives him a good floor. Should be a very good third-line center. We did draw up a comp for him. This is Adam Lowry, center for the Winnipeg Jets, and actually their captain now. So players like this can possess a long, good career. Good floor player. Maybe whatever you develop more could be, house money, but you kind of know what you're getting in a player like this, hoping for a good third-line center for your team. So Jack Nesbitt, 36 on our big board, 6.22 grade. Next center on our board, coming in 35th overall on our big board, is Bill Zanin. 6.23 grade, showed center and winger tape on film. Coming out of the QMJHL. Moves very well. I wrote for his size, but looking back at it, he's 6'1". He just kind of looks bigger on the ice, which is, I guess, a good trait to have. He moves well, though. Shows two-way want and ability. He wants to play defensively. He's a good protector of the puck, and he battles along the boards well. He's very supportive to his teammates. I think that's a sign of good awareness as well. Seems like a coachable player. The reason I say this is this guy shifts. I'm watching his film. This guy shifts. He's out there for 30 seconds. You literally see him look over at the bench. And obviously he's not just bailing on a play, but this guy, very disciplined in his shifts. They were all short. I guess I'm translating that to coachable player, assuming that's the coaching style they were going for. But that was just an interesting note on him. He does get to the front of the net offensively, and he guards his own net defensively. So good center positioning in the offensive and defensive zone. I didn't see a lot. I didn't get the final number on his face-off percentage, but from the games I watched, it kind of looked like he was losing every single one. He has versatility, though, for winger and center. Productive player coming out of the queue with good IQ, but at times he's kind of a bit stationary on offense, but I think he's trying to utilize what is a nice shot. He's not a true play driver, not as physical as a Brady Martin, even though he does have a little more size on him. So maybe another side of his game to develop. But Bill Zonin is a very interesting prospect. I feel like I've said that a lot. But I view this class, or we view this class, as an interesting class. You know, consensus is saying it's maybe a tad weaker, but we see a bit in these players. So we'll keep an eye on Bill here. We have him coming in 35th overall on our board. Next center on our board is Milton Gastrin, receiving a grade of 6.26. He's coming in at 6 foot 194 out of Sweden. Very good two-way game. Once again, kind of a theme with a lot of prospects in these drafts, at least the centers here. Very good two-way game. Projects as a dependable third-line center, jack of all trades, master of none kind of guy. Best trait offensively is his playmaking. Displays some good IQ. He comes with another high motor player. Plays with physicality. Kind of a low ceiling, high floor player. There's a few guys in this draft that we've kind of described as that, but if you're a team with a good prospect pool looking to make a safe pick for your future, a guy that you're probably going to get NHL games out of, see what you can develop after the whole two-way game. That's all house money there, but you kind of know what you're getting here. Low ceiling, high floor, low ceiling, high floor player. Coming in at number, where do we have him? 32 overall on our board with a grade of 6.26. Next on our board for centers, 25th on our board, Cullen Potter, receiving a grade of 6.35. He's 5'9", 172 pounds, coming out of Arizona State University. Very fast and one of the best skaters in this draft. So coming in with a very good trait right away. He is undersized and needs to put on significant weight, but he does come with great puck handling, even at his top speed, which is a very nice top speed, coming in as one of the better skaters in the draft. He puts in strong effort defensively, although it's kind of an unrefined skill for him. But you like to see the effort there. You get him in the right situation with some good coaching, and you may develop a good defensive game there for a speedy forward who maybe you can utilize some transition skills to use that speed to offensive opportunity coming out of the D zone. So overall, though, we have him at 25, so still in the first round. Cullen Potter, 6.35. Showed some wing on film as well, so a little bit of flexibility there for the forward, but yes, that is Cullen Potter. Our next center on our board, and the number 22 overall player in our board, is Cole Reshny, 6.44 grade, a center, 5'10", 180 pounds, coming out of WHL. Very good playmaker. He displays some very good vision and hockey IQ. He needs to improve his skating, and he is undersized, but he does have a high motor, one of the better two-way forwards in this class, which says a lot, because I feel like the more we watch these prospects, the more you were seeing some good two-way game displayed by these prospects. So one of the better two-way forwards in this class. He breaks up passing lanes very well in the D zone, showing some good awareness there and good ability to use his stick. Smaller player with some weaker skating. We'd like to see him work on that. But Cole Reshny coming in at 22 overall with a grade of 6.44. Kind of feels like another good safe player that's already good in his defensive game. Maybe look to develop the other side of the puck and work on his skating. But overall, Cole Reshny, 6.44. Now, time for what may be the most controversial ranking of this video. Coming in at the number 20 overall player is Brady Martin, receiving a grade of 6.49. Coming in at 6 foot 186. The guy plays about 3 times of that size. Now, I'm seeing Brady Martin mocked within the top 10 to places like Boston and Philly, and I get that. I get the whole Broad Street bullies, Boston bullies, whatever you want to say. And I see this narrative with Martin about, oh, he's going to be great in the playoffs. I think you watch Sam Bennett, who Martin says is one of the players he forms his game around, along with Tom Wilson and others, who you get the point. You see Sam Bennett do this well in the playoffs, and I think that it's kind of helping a prospect like Martin. Like, I don't want to say they're just looking to copycat what the Panthers are doing here, but getting a player like Martin, you kind of get your Sam Bennett of your Stanley Cup winning team. But with Brady Martin, let's get into the notes before we get. So I don't want to say he's a bad skater, but compared to some other prospects we've looked at, he appears to be a weaker skater, or I don't want to question his compete, because a lot of consensus is in on his compete. And there were a lot of times where I agree with that. So I'm choosing to go with maybe there's a little bit of a skating deficiency. He has a hard but sometimes inaccurate shot, and we found his center positioning to be poor, both in the offensive and defensive zone. Now, we did note he can project better as a winger. He uses his body very well to create chances, and he uses it to battle for the puck, which is good with his aggressive play style. I'm glad he really matches all aspects of the ice with that. He can still add weight to this frame as well, which will really help him reach what he's trying to do. He uses his stick well in these puck battles, so he has two ways of battling for the puck, which I like. Like I said, with a few other prospects, this is a good trait to have. It kind of gives you a nice floor coming into the NHL. He has confidence with his puck skills, but they're not always successful. There were plenty of times where I'd watch him try to deke, and it didn't seem natural to him. Like, it seems like his game is more of what he says, like of a checking game and using his body. But what I'm looking at, if I have a top 10 pick in the draft, I like to shoot for more upside. I view Brady Martin as a good floor player on your team, where he can come in as a middle six. Well, I'm talking about once he's established in the NHL. A nice middle six player that can be a good physical presence for you. But he's a very good body checker. There's literally a 17-minute highlight reel of him body checking. So you're not going to see that from any other prospect in the class. So Brady Martin, great body checker. He seems to save his burst for offensive opportunity. I don't want to sit here and tell you he doesn't care about defense, but I think he's more offensively minded. I think he did show some things on the defensive side of the ice where you can trust him out there, but you may have to coach a more balanced game, because he seems to, I don't want to call it cheating, but he seems to save a lot for his offensive burst, which I get it. You're trying to establish yourself as a top prospect. But what really bothered me is he did this on the penalty kill. This could be coaching or just his play style, but you'd see him try to cheat up or not dump the puck on a penalty kill, and it would result in a turnover and sustained pressure for the power play you're trying to defend. So that's a potential issue for him. But here's what I want to just say about Brady Martin. I view Brady Martin as we have him at number 20 overall on our board. I view him as a safe pick, but I don't view him as a top 10 pick, because this is a floor play. So maybe the right team with an established prospect pool looking for someone down the line to come in and be a middle six, maybe third line, second line role, to be physical and establish a tone in a hockey game. I think Brady Martin can go to the right setting here. But if you're picking Brady Martin to be your future first line center, I think you're gonna fail on the pick. So definitely potentially a very controversial take from us here, but there's a lot of things in his game that don't show a top 10 pick in a draft ceiling, if that makes sense. We view him as more of a floor pick to pair him with an already established prospect pool. So we'll see where he goes. But if I'm Philly or if I'm Boston, I'm maybe looking more like I see him sometimes going over Jake O'Brien. Jake O'Brien has elite offensive playmaking ceiling. Like, I'm talking, like, his high in comp is Robert Thomas, who's a point per game center playmaker in the NHL. So I'd rather take the chance on that than Brady Martin. And once again, I'm not trying to say don't draft Brady Martin in the first round, because we believe in him being an NHL player, just not the same ceiling as you're seeing from these other guys. So we have him at 20, and I think that demonstrates what we're trying to get across here. So Brady Martin, very interesting. Like I said, we spent 5 minutes talking about him here. Very curious where he goes. Very excited to see where he goes, because we're doing a draft ranking or a draft grade video later. If he goes in the top 10, that team's not getting a good grade for that pick. So Brady Martin, very excited to watch how this forms throughout the years. We have him as a safe floor, low ceiling player. So we'll see. We expect to not have everyone agree with us on that, but we'll see. So that's Brady Martin. Coming in at the 19th overall player on our board, and our next center is Braden Coots. Braden Coots is receiving a grade of 6.5 from us here. He's a center, 5'11", 186, coming out of the WHL. Now, he is an extremely high motor, 100% effort all over the ice. He's a good shooter with a nice quick release, and he has a good feel for the game, but his main knock is his skating, especially laterally. Now, he is he has good production here with his supporting cast, and this may suggest that he has an underrated play driving ability, but to really reach that ceiling, you'd like to see him develop his skating ability, because the effort's there. Like, this guy, he's making plays based on what he's putting into it. And like I said a little earlier with, I think it was Frundell we were talking about, that like ability to forecheck and just provide effort. I think it's really important for a prospect. So Coots is displaying some of those traits. Now, we do have another comp for him. We went with Braden Shen. So, but once again, we need Coots to develop his skating to really reach his NHL ceiling. Definitely an interesting player in the class, but we would like to see him work on his skating for sure. The main knock, everything else appears to be there. He's, like I said, very good shot. He's an aware player, and he's got the effort. So we think, this kind of appears to be a coachable player if you see the effort on the ice. So we're thinking you get him in the right situation to a good team in the middle of the draft. That's not impossible here. They can develop him and help him work on his skating. So we'd like to see that, but we're rooting for this player. Next up for centers on our board, we have Benjamin Kindle, our 18th overall player on the board. So a little bit of a gap for centers here between 11 and 18, but he's coming in with a grade of 6.52 out of the WHL, 5'10", 180 pounds, playing for the Calgary Hitmen. Now, what really pops up with him on tape is he's more of a power play specialist. He quarterbacked his, as in he essentially, once again, not to full on go Sabres reference here, but if you ever watch Dahlin on the power play, he's the only guy along that point most of the time. That's how they treated Kindle. He's essentially the last line of defense if things go south, but necessarily, or more in that role, he's looking to create opportunities for his teammates. So he's really quarterbacking his power play. He has adequate skating, and he has some good bursts of speed at time. Really good puck skills. You see a lot of dangling in his game, and he uses these puck skills and dangling ability for protection as opposed to using his body to protect the puck. Not necessarily a bad thing, as he does show the skill for it. He's a very aware player, and he anticipates well, and that's what really gave him a better grade here. I see him listed all over, sometimes even in the second round, but to come in at 18, what we really liked was his awareness and the ability to anticipate. He positions himself well on the ice offensively. He shows good compete. He's a little inconsistent defensively with his positioning. A couple of the games we watched on him, you could tell he'd look up into the skies. He knew his guy was the one that got loose as he was a little mispositioned. But so he's a little inconsistent with it, but he does show a lot of awareness most of the time. I think there is a role for him as a two-way player in the NHL game. He just needs to be a little more consistent with it. But a lot of prospects coming into the league, you're going to see a lot of that. So that's another reason why we have awareness as a little bit of an inconsistency, just kind of pairing on the defensive side of inconsistencies there. But overall, especially in the offensive zone, he does tend to be very aware. Kindle coming in right almost in the middle of the first round here. Prospect we like. I've seen him higher, I've seen him lower than this. So he's an interesting guy to watch. 6.52 is our final grade on him. So looking forward to see what happens there. Our next center on our big board and our number 11 player in the draft is Caleb Desnoyers. Apologies if I butchered that, but I think that's correct. He is receiving a grade of 6.7. Once again, the 11th overall player on our board, and the next center we're reviewing. He is 6'1", coming in at 178 out of the QMJHL. Now, what we have on him is he's an elite playmaker as well. He can drive and dictate the play anytime he is on the ice. Great trait for a prospect. He's patient with the puck, and he is not afraid to get to the front of the net. Competition is a little weaker coming out of the QMJHL, but he's showing a lot of those traits that you want to see from a top 10. We have him at 11, but top 10 prospect in the draft here. So we really like him. Once again, a grade of 6.7 is impressive. We'd like to see better competition, but we can't necessarily blame him for that. He did what he could coming from where he's coming from in the QMJHL. So we do like him. Grade of 6.7 there. And that's someone we're interested to see where he goes as well. Next on our big board here, the number 8 overall player in the next center we will be talking about is Jake O'Brien. Jake O'Brien, man, there are some good things to watch, especially from his playmaking side. He receives a grade of 6.82. Once again, coming in as the 8th overall player on our board. He is coming in at 6'1", 177 out of the OHL. I'm gonna start right away with the player comp here. And like I said, we try not to force these, but if it really kind of shows, it's something we want to throw out there. This one came from me myself here. I threw his high end player comp as Robert Thomas, elite playmaker, very good hands, smart player. This is the high end ceiling comp for O'Brien, so I do understand he may not reach this, but there's a lot of aspects of that game that I think could really form him to a Michael Thomas, Robert Thomas type player. Has elite patience, that was shown right away. Elite confidence, elite playmaking ability. He's very aware in both ends with his center positioning. So he positions very well as a center in the offensive zone and defensive zone. His awareness should help him translate to the NHL game. Physicality will need to develop, and putting on some weight will help him to use his body more in these puck battles, as he tended to go more towards his stick, which it's not necessarily a weakness, but you can kind of develop a better ability to board battle with more weight. So we categorize Jake O'Brien as a play driver, as he does kind of move differently on the ice. I'm not sure if this is me complimenting his skating, but just when he has the puck, he seems so aware, like he's already decided where he's going, and 9 out of 10 times that's the correct decision. So that's more where the moving differently on the ice comes from, and that's a good trait to have for a prospect if they really just stand out. And his effort really kind of matches his skill. He does have good effort. So Jake O'Brien is a center we really like. A grade of 6.82 coming out of the OHL. Our next center on our big board and the number 7 overall player on our board is Roger McQueen. Roger McQueen comes in with arguably the best name in the draft and is a very interesting prospect. He ended up receiving a grade of 6.85 from us. He is a center, 6'5", 198 pounds, coming out of the WHL. Now, he has been sidelined with what appears to be recurring back injuries, but he said he was misdiagnosed and is now fully healthy, was a full participant at the NHL Combine. This is important because prospects coming in with injury tags, especially I feel for hockey players, have been proven to be a real concern. But McQueen is an interesting case here because if it's just a misdiagnosis and he's been given the wrong advice on how to deal with this for multiple years, now that he is cleared up, ready to go, hopefully this injury is no longer even a concern. So that's an important aspect, and you like to see him as a full participant in the Combine to really back up what he said there. But back to his abilities, he's a big body, and he has a very noticeable presence on the ice. He has a great combination of puck control and vision, using his size to tie up on face-offs, but he does have room to add some more weight to that height, and that could really help him improve his skating. Skating appeared to be improved over the past year and a half, but it could just be because he was injured, as we stated earlier, still figuring out that whole misdiagnosis issue. He has a big net front presence on the power play. He likes to play physical using his frame, and potentially is able to play both on the power play, and the penalty kill in the NHL. So McQueen is one of the more fascinating prospects in the draft here. So I would really like to see him. I'm choosing to believe what he said about his injury, that there was a misdiagnosis. I like to see the full participant in the NHL Combine. That really kind of backs it up. So yeah, looking forward to see where he goes in the draft here. Our number 3 center in the draft and the number 6 player on our whole big board is Anton Frondell, receiving a grade of 6.89. Coming in at 6'1", 204, Frondell has been playing over in Sweden. Now, he has a high-end shot. That's the first thing we noticed about him. This shot is, I don't want to say elite at NHL standards yet, but it's elite for a prospect coming in to the draft here. He has multiple deceptive releases, which is what we like to see. He has a strong hockey IQ and is constantly moving to get open or create chances for his teammates. Now, this is especially apparent on the power play. Now, one knock on Frondell is that he is not necessarily a play driver. He more uses himself to get open, to be an option for teammates. So for him to reach his best ceiling is you're going to want him playing with some elite talent, which obviously is good for any prospect, but especially for Frondell, his skill set will match well with some play drivers on his line. He does forecheck well, and he has smart stick use. He's kind of a hound on the forecheck, which I think is an underrated value for a prospect here. Now, potentially, I don't want to say a little biased, but as a Sabres fan here, watching Zach Benson, there's still a lot of areas of his game that are developing, but the way he makes himself so useful as a 18, 19-year-old in the NHL is high effort, high skill on the forecheck. Really, you just got to be a hound. And I think Frundell shows a little bit of that. I think he's really smart with his stick, and he does know how to use his body as well. He plays both wings and has a lot of film at center. We have him listed as a center here, but he's started some shifts on the wings, and on the power play, you'll see him back there on the point to utilize his good shot. Could thrive alongside elite talent, and there's a few minor knocks we had on his skating. Nothing too concerning, but it just kind of looks like some of his edge work could use a little bit of work. He sometimes would just try to create a play using some of his skating ability, and he just kind of would fall down. This is getting nitpicky, but it is something we noticed. Defensive consistency, while he does project as a good two-way center or forward in the league, there are some aspects of his game that could be a little more consistent in the defensive zone. But overall, we really like Frundell as the 6th overall player on our board and the number 3 center in the draft. Our number 2 center in the draft and our number 5 player on our overall board goes to James Higgins. He received a grade of 6.95. His height is 5'10", weighing in at 186 pounds. Now he's coming out of Boston College here in the NCAA. Obviously, you go back a year or two ago, this guy's projected to be the number 1 overall pick. So while he has dropped a little bit from that regard, he's still one of the higher rated prospects in the draft, number 5 on our big board. What we like about him is he's extremely skilled. Great skater, great playmaker, and he displays some good hockey IQ as well in his film. He has an underrated shot. He didn't evolve this season from his D1, although he did still play very well as an NCAA freshman, which is an important thing to look at. Breakout age and everything is very important. He's a dynamic play driver when he's on, but he's more of a passenger at Boston College. It's probably because he was playing on a line with 2 elite play drivers, so naturally his role may not be what he could be in the NHL. He's undersized for a center. He could explode next year when he is the primary play driver on his line, but he does also need to show a little more in the physical side of his game. We do have a comparison for him here. We do comps for some players if it really stands out, but we don't try to force it. But we went with Logan Cooley here. So yeah, James Higgins, one of the more interesting prospects in the draft. We have him at 5, but he is a prime drop candidate. But he could also sneak in there to the top anywhere from 3 afterwards. So he'll be a very fun prospect to watch. But yes, receiving a 6.95 grade from us here. Our top center in the 2025 draft is Michael Misa, receiving a grade of 7.2. Now, we do have him listed as center and winger, but with any center eligibility, you're going to be in this video here. So Michael Misa comes in at 6'1", 182. He has played for the Saginaw Spirit in the OHL. And what we like about him is he is an extremely high IQ player. This is shown by his anticipation and the gap creation and control in both the offensive and defensive zone there. Now, he frequently reloads when team has O-zone possession to create space for himself and his teammates, which is a good trait to have. Elite speed is what makes him especially dangerous on the rush. He has an above average or 2 average shot, but is very capable defensively as well. He has even played for the penalty kill unit on his team. Now, Michael Misa here is 2nd overall on our board. Not to give away who's number 1, but you may want to watch that defensive prospect video. But that's our little blurb on Michael Misa. He's coming in with a grade of 7.2. With a grade of 7.2, this is what we consider a blue chip prospect. So we expect Michael Misa to be a very capable and productive player in the league here. And honestly, I feel consensus views him the same way.